history of the world. Our founding fathers understood that what makes a country great, it isn't necessarily its land, it's not its wealth, but it's the people that reside within it. No time in history before them had there been a constitution or a legal document set forth to govern a nation that relied on the individual and personal freedom and personal responsibility. That is the ideology that made the United States great and continues to make it great. But as we go forward, we see that that's changing. We stand on the shoulders of giants, whether it be educators in the past, whether it be our forefathers, whether it be our veterans that fought and died for our great country, whether it be mothers or fathers that raised generations of great children, whether it be entrepreneurs that created jobs, whether it be the slaves that were freed and went on to become successful and do their own job to prove that if they were left alone, they too could succeed. Those ideas of personal freedom and personal responsibility and the great ancestors we have before us have made us what we are today. We don't want to be the generation that lets that slide. Today we see that it's been going on for decades, that normal Americans and their personal freedom and responsibility has slowly eroded away. This is because all of our cultural institutions of power are dominated by the establishment, and particularly an establishment leftist ideology. This means that things like hard work and personal responsibility have been replaced with things such as victimhood and claiming that you're perpetually a victim and that's somehow worth something. A normal American works 9 to 5 and they just want to be left alone by the government. I've grown up in rural Pennsylvania my whole life. The people that I respect, the people I think are the salt of this country, are blue-collar workers that I see every day, my family and friends. Whether they be truck drivers, welders, they hunt for recreation and for a livelihood. Whether it be carpenters, whether it be educators or people in the service industry. These people just want to go to work, provide for their family, have a good life, and be left alone. Where is their voice? They've been drowned out amongst a chorus of the establishment left that controls all of our cultural institutions of power that shape the public narrative. Whether it be the mainstream media, which comes almost 95% from the establishment leftist perspective. The same is true of academia. The same is true of our entertainment industry in Hollywood. And you could also say that of the people that control Silicon Valley and many of these social media corporations. Imagine it. You work 9 to 5, you come home, want to relax, you turn on your local news. All of the information you get is from this establishment leftist perspective. So you turn the news off and maybe you get ready for your night class that you're taking. That academia is almost entirely coming from that establishment leftist perspective. So you say, you know what, I just want to forget about it all and tune on some television, something entertaining. So you turn on a late night comedy show. All of it's dominated by the exact same ideology, this establishment leftist perspective. So then maybe you go onto Facebook or Twitter or YouTube in order to talk to people that maybe share your life experience. But again, those are all ran by organizations and companies that come from that same establishment leftist perspective. And make no mistake about it, this isn't the leftist that's my friend or my neighbor that I'm talking about. These are oligarchs. These are people in the establishment, the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, that are really the movers and shakers and control the direction of our country. They don't care about normal Americans. The idea that it's left versus right, sure, there are things we disagree on, and I'm honest in this channel that I'm coming from the right. But I welcome my friends from the left that understand also that this corruption in the establishment needs to be fought. Until we fight back against this corruption, it doesn't matter if we're Democrats, Republicans, none of it will matter. Because the people that really control this country don't care about me and yours voice. The election of Donald Trump was the first time in my life that we see the possibility of outing the corruption of this establishment. And yet, and despite this, we see that the establishment is laughing. They think that they're still winning. People like James Comey that ran the FBI as a personal mercenary squad for the Democrats and Barack Obama laugh as they escape indictment after indictment, even as their crimes are made public for all to see. The media covers for them and celebrates this corruption. Academia and the entertainment industry in Silicon Valley go along with this. Where are the voices for normal Americans? But there is good news. There are people that are rising up. There are people that are running for office. There are people that are doing independent channels. There are people waking up by the millions that understand how corrupt this system is. Just the Iowa caucus starts to show many people on the left that didn't want to see it, how corrupt the DNC and the establishment is. We should be reaching out and talking to all these people and making allies to fight back against this corruption. My channel is about being a voice for normal Americans, whether you're a blue-collar worker in rural Pennsylvania that's been maligned as clinging to your guns and Bible, that's been called a racist deplorable, Or maybe you're in the inner city and you grew up in a single parent household and you've been told you're a victim your whole life and you're just trying to succeed, but everything tells you, no, you're a victim. Don't try to go out and have personal responsibility and achieve on your own. Or anyone in between. This is a show for you. We are here to discuss the issues of normal Americans, to bring truth to everyday people that it's been hidden from by the oligarchs that really control our country and the establishment. They need to control the flow of information and all of those cultural institutions of power that I mentioned in order to make sure that they could pass their agenda, because they know the secret. If the normal person, if the average American were to find out how corrupt this was, they wouldn't stand for it. The way we win this battle is by bringing information to the millions and millions of Americans that have been lied to, that through the sweat of their labor, through their hard work, have enriched corrupt politicians, have enriched corrupt people in the media and other corrupt people that aren't elected in office like these bureaucrats, that have outsourced our wealth to other countries to further enrich the politicians that send that wealth over there. If the average and normal American wakes up to this, we can begin taking back our country. The war will be fought with information. That is what my channel and so many of the channels I'm associated are trying to do. That's what we're trying to do today. So please, I encourage you, follow my channel, support it, follow other independent content creators, follow the people that I'm connected to, and even if you're on the left, follow independent content creators on the left. But take away this gatekeeping power of the establishment to control all flow of information. Real people with facts and truth on their side do not hide from the First Amendment. We don't hide from open speech and open debate. We'll bring diverse opinions on. We'll bring people that disagree because we understand that we're about the flow of information and allowing everyone to make up their own mind. We do not need to censor voices like the establishment. So I welcome to my channel, the Normal America channel, and I hope that you'll enjoy yourself. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good one. Hello. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I really appreciate y'all being here. Thanks a lot. So I finally got some time off work. Woo! So I would have been doing videos earlier. You might notice my resolution's crappy. If you're listening on the podcast, then you don't notice that because you can't see my beautiful face. But yeah, I don't know. Something's going on with my driver, so I'll be working with that later. I'm having problems with my camera, but that's okay. Even as fuzzy as I am, it'll still be a good show. So what's up, Paul? I got to get a hold of you. I got to get you on the horn here on Google Hangouts. So sorry about that. For those of you who don't know, I do home health care. I get called in like crazy. I work basically 11 days in a row. And it's been really tough. In addition to that, things are so depressing. It's hard to delve into something for a couple minutes when I'm at work. So I just haven't been doing much. So glad to be here today. There's a lot to talk about. So we'll jump right in. I thought the theme of today's show would be kind of how we're starting to see stuff come to fruition that shows the corruption that I've been talking about in my channel since I started, 2.5, 3 years ago. So we're seeing that I've been vindicated, and not just me. A lot of people have been talking about these corrupt things. But I also want to apply that to how we should look at the shutdown and things like that. Because one of the things that happens is because there's so much corruption and we don't have a media that we could trust. Look, one of the things I focus on my channel all the time is the narrative is controlled by the establishment, the globalist, and the face of that is the establishment Democratic Party. And because of that, all sorts of corruption is able to be brushed under the rug. Because you have to understand, my channel, I'm trying to do this channel for everyone. I really do want to get voices that agree with me, disagree, and all manner of people in between there. It's for people that are Democrats, people that are Republicans, people that identify as neither, etc. But one of the groups I'm really trying to reach is normal Americans. And by those, I mean the people, most people that aren't sitting down and looking at politics 3-4 hours a day like me, that aren't watching that much of the news, that, they're really just trying to live, whether they're blue collar workers, white collar workers, whatever. They're just trying to have a family. They basically just want to be happy, have the government not be too much of a burden on their life, etc. That's what I'm referring to when I talk about normal Americans. The problem is if you're not focused on the corruption, it's easy for it to be buried because all you hear about it from is kind of these periphery sources, whether it be the mainstream media or else. The narrative is controlled by cultural institutions of power, and all of those are almost completely dominated by the establishment. You hear me talk about this on the show a lot. So the mainstream media, for example, academia is another example, dominated by the left, by the globalists, the establishment, the Democratic Party. Entertainment industry, such as Hollywood, the music industry, the sports industry, all dominated by the establishment left. Just look at the NBA sucking up to China. Or how about Silicon Valley, Twitter, YouTube? YouTube just banned all mention of the video of those two doctors that talked about disagreeing with the official policies on COVID that came out of California. They took that video down, and they're banning people that talk about that video. My friend, the channel Let's Be Frank, he did an interview with those doctors. They booted that video off. So you can't even interview these doctors. That's how bad things are getting. So, I'll get to some questions here in a bit. But so because this narrative is controlled by the establishment, particularly the establishment left, it allows them to get away with stuff that would never be able to happen if you were just an objective person that was getting even 1/10 of the amount of the actual truth out there. And two of the big examples we could see of that is the corruption with the FBI and the weaponizing of sexual assault allegations. Both of these have been things that I've been talking about for years, and both of them kind of came to a head. Hey, thanks a lot, Paul. Both of them kind of came to a head at the exact same time. So it's worth talking about that. What we lose sight of is we look at all of these issues in a vacuum, and I'm guilty of it myself at times. So what'll happen is you're like, look at this situation with General Flynn, which we'll talk about that. But look at the situation with Flynn. Oh, it's terrible. Look how bad the FBI is. But you forget it's not just that. It's also the FBI and other unelected bureaucrats in the impeachment. It's also them in the FISA-gate business with Carter Page. It's also them with George Papadopoulos trying to frame him, giving him a briefcase full of cash before he got on an airplane and then trying to arrest him for it when he get off, but he was smart enough not to have it. And not only that, when you see every single time we look at the FBI, every single time they're corrupt. So then you factor in, who's the ones that were in charge of the Epstein investigation? Oh, that was the FBI. Who was the people that were in charge of finding the motivations for the Las Vegas shooter, the biggest mass shooter in the history of this country, that happened to be directed at country music fans and predominantly Trump supporters? Oh, that was also the FBI. And so when you look at each of these individually, it paints a really bad picture of the FBI. But when you look at it broadly, not in a vacuum, it shows a far worse picture of the FBI. That they are corrupt, that they're treasonous, that they're part of the establishment that tries to screw over normal people. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. They don't care about you. They think that you're just a sheep to be herded. They're the people with the power. They want a neo-feudalism. That's what these globalist establishment people want. They want you to be totally reliant on them. That's what Bill Gates wants. That's what Zuckerberg wants. That's what Comey wanted. That's what Brennan wants. That's what Pelosi wants and Schumer, etc. And Joe Biden, though I don't think Joe Biden knows what he's talking about. Joe Biden's just mumbling around sniffing little girls' hair. So you have to factor in now the media's coverage of it. And this weaponization of the sexual assault allegations that we saw with Kavanaugh. Same thing. And what it starts to do is it paints a picture where everyone asks me all the time, Rob, why are you screaming on your channel? Why are you so angry? What's going on? Are you starting to get the picture? It's everything they tell us. And they're winning, by the way. They're winning. How do I know they're winning? We're in a lockdown right now inspired by their fear. Everything that's being done as a result of the COVID-19 is exactly what these globalists want. Destroying the economy, wiping out the middle class, making people depend on big government to survive, trillions of dollars of spending, redistribution of wealth, taking away people's rights. All of this is occurring right now. Now, how was I, so we'll start here. How was I, and there's other people, I recommend also checking out a lot of the people that I did the Patriot panel with were very good in this particular. Check out my interview on Sarah Corrier's channel. Me and Sarah, right at the beginning of this, we're talking about, look, the big problem is the loss of rights. The big problem is governments and the media and all these establishment people using this virus as a pretext to take away our rights, to destroy our economy, to further screw over average Americans. There were very few of us that were out there at the beginning talking about it. Now, I know there were people that don't have channels that were talking about this, like some of the great people in my audience, right? But there were even Trump supporters, blue checkmark Twitter people, Trump supporters supposedly in the media, independent content creators that are Trump supporters, and all sorts of other people that are supposedly fiscal and constitutional conservatives that were like, oh yeah, we have to take away rights, we have to destroy the economy, we have to do all this, we have to have a shutdown in the name of this virus. They were wrong, as history is going to prove me correct. Now, remember, I never said I knew how deadly the virus will be. I'm not going to claim that I predicted that. But my gut feeling was that it was being blown out of proportion. And my comment was that the government, before they take away our rights and lock us down and collapse the economy, should have to answer basic questions, which they still haven't done. All of this, though, is being led by the exact same globalists that pushed the Me Too movement on you, that said that Kavanaugh should be booted out of office, that said that we can't question the... You remember this? You remember when CNN and MSNBC were saying, oh, not only are we not going to investigate possible corruption at the FBI, but we think if you're doing it, if you're questioning the FBI, you're harming this country. These are journalists that's job is to look into these powerful organizations. That's their job. And yet the very media people who tout themselves, oh, we hold truth to power... Not only were they not doing it, they were looking at people like me that were doing their job, and they were saying, oh, you're harming law enforcement. You're jeopardizing sources and methods. Lives could be at risk because you're asking questions of the FBI. That's what our media did. And now, the same people, many Trump supporters that argued, that were with me the whole time. Okay, I'm losing subscribers and viewers like a sieve. I don't care. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate each and every one of you that are listening, but I'm going to be authentic no matter what. If that means losing subscribers because I'm saying stuff that people don't find popular, that's fine by me. But many of these people that, yeah, they saw through the Russiagate stuff. They saw through the FISA-gate stuff. They saw through the Ukraine impeachment stuff. They saw through the Kavanaugh stuff. Yet somehow they listened to those same establishment goons in the media and the intel agencies and unelected State Department people, bureaucrats, people like your Fokies, your Dr. Fokies, your establishment goons, the media, I already said, but now they're falling hook, line, and sinker for everything. They're saying, oh, this virus, it's so deadly, you know. So, I don't understand. So what I want to do today is talk about the Flynn situation, talk about the Biden situation with the sexual assault allegation, and then I want you to think the whole time, like, here's your job as someone listening to me. By the way, I always hated that. I hated when I'm listening to a show. Who was it? One of the Kings of Comedy. I think it was Steve Harvey. He said he hates going to rap shows because the rappers are always telling him what to do. When I say, you say, put your hands in the air. He's like, nah, I'm good. You're here to entertain me. I'm not going to do what you say. But if you feel like doing something in the audience today, think of this. As we go through these individual stories, ask yourself, geez, if these people are willing to lie about the Flynn situation, or if they're willing to lie about Me Too movement, why wouldn't they be willing to lie about this virus? What should we trust them on? My answer is nothing. I no longer trust the media, academia, the entertainment industry, Silicon Valley, any of these unelected bureaucrats, anybody in Washington, literally anyone. I do not trust any of them unless they show me proof that I can believe. I'm not going to take their word for anything at all. They've lied so many times. Remember, like, just keep in this vacuum. If you disagree with them, if you have questions, look, I don't follow Q necessarily. I'm not the world's biggest conspiracy theorist, but what have I said the whole time in this show? This is the group, the establishment. It is the establishment line that Epstein killed himself. So, as far as I'm concerned, that makes the establishment the biggest conspiracy theorist of all, the biggest tinfoil hat wearers of all. So I'm not going to criticize any one of you for any conspiracy you have about them. And what I'm saying, though, is I don't believe anything they say anymore at all. Why would I? They lie so obviously, and that's what makes these two stories, particularly the Biden story, the sexual assault story, that's what makes it so interesting to me. Of course, anyone who's been following along knew that everything that happened with the establishment Democratic Party, the people that run it, with Kavanaugh, they knew that they were lying, that they were weaponizing sexual assault claims, and they didn't care about sexual assault victims, and that they didn't care about getting to the truth of the matter. They were just using it for political power. We all knew that. But now we see they don't even care to hide how hypocritical they are anymore. They don't care. It's just in your face. They're like, yeah, so what? Just like the FBI. The FBI hasn't cared for 3 years. We knew Chuck Schumer came on television and told us, right as Trump was sworn in, hey, Trump better not criticize the FBI. They'll find 6 ways at Sunday of getting back at him. They don't care anymore. The FBI doesn't care. We're just kidding. Christopher Wray, he's still holding up documents. With everything we've seen. The head of the FBI is still like, yeah, F you. You don't get to see the documents that prove our corruption. Yeah, and we know it's corrupt and we don't care. We don't care if you know. We're going to do what we want. And that's what we need to be focusing on to wake normal people up. Because right now, the biggest story in the world is this shutdown. And so many people don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to claim I have all the answers either. But what we can do is show people the facts on that shutdown, which I've done on this show a lot, and I'll continue to do, but also show them the same people that are looking at you saying, oh, we have to pull these videos off YouTube, and you can't say this on Twitter, and you have to agree with the CDC and the World Health Organization, and anyone who doesn't off the grid, and they're just out of their mind. Those same people will look you right in the face and lie to you about things that you could easily prove like that, like these sexual assault allegations, like the situation with General Flynn. So, yeah, I agree with you and on. That's what I think. I think that Barr's letting everyone down. We'll see how that goes. But let's start with Biden. So, Joe Biden today goes on... Excuse me. What's going on here? Joe Biden today goes on Morning Joe Scarborough. What a joke he is. He goes on and proceeds to talk about... One second, I'm looking up an article here. Oops, I'm getting there. Let's see if I can... I've had a good article lined up, and then my computer uploaded. There we go. Okay. Anyways, so he goes on Morning Joe, and he's talking about, for the first time, he's going to say, I didn't do anything to Tara Reade. Let's start at the beginning. So Tara Reade was someone who's working for Bernie's campaign. She worked in an office that was associated with Biden back in 93, back in the 90s. She claims... And it did come out right around the time that Bernie was going head-to-head with Biden. But she claims that Joe Biden... The story goes something like this. She was told in her office, hey, Mr. Biden would like to see you. She goes to Biden. Biden pushes her up against the wall and says, you want to come out with me later or tonight or something like that? And she's like, no. And he supposedly... She had a skirt on, and he put his hand up her skirt and inside of her. That's the allegation. She claims that she'll still vote for Biden because she hates Trump that much because, she's a Bernie bro and she's a progressive and Trump's Hitler. So, she's still going to vote for a guy who sexually assaulted her over Donald Trump. But that is the story. Now, is there possible political motivations for her coming forward? Absolutely. She could still be holding out hope that if Biden gets in trouble, Bernie was the runner-up, and so her guy Bernie would be in charge. Does this mean that Biden's absolutely guilty? No. Does the fact that we could see with our own eyes Biden be creepy with girls mean that he's a sexual assaulter? No. I've seen him make young underage girls uncomfortable, smelling their hair, rubbing their shoulders and things like that. He's been called out on that, and he said, I'll try to do a better job. I understand I'm making women feel uncomfortable. And then he went right back to doing it. But does that mean he's a sexual assaulter? No. Should Biden be afforded the presumption of innocence? Yes. So I want to get all of that out of the way early. This story is not about Joe Biden. It is, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I didn't say Trump should have to withdraw, or Kavanaugh should have to withdraw, or Roy Moore should have to withdraw, or Al Franken should have to withdraw, or Bob Menendez would have to withdraw, etc. I said Republican or Democrat every single time. They should be allowed to defend themselves in a court of law. They should be provided the presumption of innocence. Every time, Republican or Democrat. I continue to say that about Joe Biden. Now, for me, personally, I wasn't going to vote for Joe Biden anyways. There's plenty of reasons not to vote for Joe Biden aside from this. What this story is about, it is an indictment on our entire political and media system. It's an indictment on all of those cultural institutions of power that I talked about at the top of the show. The mainstream media, academia, the entertainment industry, Silicon Valley, all of which went gung-ho on Brett Kavanaugh with no evidence that he even ever met the woman that he was accused of sexually assaulting. And they breathlessly said he needs to be removed. You ought to be ashamed if you're defending him. This proves the country's misogynist. It proves that people don't take sexual assault seriously. And it was a lie. Now, we knew it was a lie at the time. And I covered the subject breathlessly here. Hey, Sarah, what's up? Right. And that's a good point, Sarah. It's also about the standards that you advocate for. Remember, during the Kavanaugh situation, Joe Biden wanted an FBI investigation. Joe Biden said there was no reason for Kavanaugh to not want an FBI investigation if he was innocent. Joe Biden said he believed Christine Blasey Ford. In February, Joe Biden, in the debates, told Michael Bloomberg that he should release the restrictions on the non-disclosure agreements that Bloomberg had with several women because people had the right to see what was in those files and what Bloomberg was alleged to have done to these women. Now, why shouldn't Joe Biden be held to the same standards that he issued for Kavanaugh and for Mike Bloomberg? I say this all the time. And Sarah, it's like, by the way, Sarah, I mentioned you at the onset of the show as one of the only people, along with me, that were calling out this COVID, the lockdown, and the taking away of rights early. And it's worth remembering who came out and defended rights even when it was unpopular. It's the same thing here. It would be easy for me to say, I hate the Democrats. They weaponized sexual assault. They said Trump did something. So now that Biden's accused, yep, Biden must have did it. But that's not me. The most important thing we could do in life, and this is true of everyone, is judge ourselves. Hold ourselves to the standards that we would like to hold other people to. That's something that every one of us could do. So I'm not going to say Joe Biden's guilty. But what I am going to say is Joe Biden's holding other people to a standard that he's unwilling to hold himself to. And the same's true of the Democratic Party, and the same's true of the media, and of the entertainment industry, and of academia, and of Silicon Valley. All of which came knives out for Kavanaugh. I swear to, I'm not someone like that tears up very often watching a movie or something like that. I'm not an Iron Man or anything, but when I watched Kavanaugh give his opening statement in his hearing, I was crying. Because to me, I'm not a wealthy person. I only have two things in life, really. My family, my loved ones, and my reputation. That's it. They sought to take that away from Kavanaugh. There was a man who didn't even care about the job anymore. It wasn't about, I hope I get the Supreme Court seat. It was a guy who had two young daughters that he was the coach of their basketball team that had major newspapers in this country saying, well, as a serial rapist, should Brett Kavanaugh be allowed to coach his girls' basketball team? You know what it would be like for those girls to know that everyone's talking about their dad that way? With no proof whatsoever. All because he happened to be nominated by a Republican and could have jeopardized Roe v. Wade. That's what it was all about. We all knew it. And so you saw a man fighting for the things most important in his life, his family and his reputation. He was mocked for that by the leftists. He was mocked on SNL for that. He was mocked by people in the Democratic Party, your Cory Bookers, your Mazie Hironos, your Dianne Feinstein. The media took him to task for it. And now when the shoe's on the other foot, it couldn't be more different. So a good place to start here, and this is this Fox article. Now I'm going to read some of it to you. What this article did, the reason I like this is, it's a timeline. It'll go through, here's what happened day one of the Kavanaugh allegations. Here's what happened day one of the Biden allegation. I don't know if I'll read through the whole thing, but note the distinction how the Democratic Party and the media are treating these two situations differently. You'll see a theme with my channel. What I ask all the time is, let me move my beautiful face here. All I want for people, you heard me say this a million times on here. I have plenty of friends that are left-leaning people that disagree with me, all sorts of things, but I still get along with them. I would rather someone disagree with me, but is authentic, they're being true to themselves, and they're being non-hypocritical, than someone who claims to agree with me, but then is a hypocrite. That, to me, is the more disgusting of the positions. And so, all I ask is, I've said this about everything. We're going to start arresting people for violating the Logan Act? Fine. You want to charge Flynn? Then charge John Kerry for meeting with Iran, right? You want to start charging people for lying to Congress? Fine. You charge Papadopoulos. But you also charge Brennan and Clapper, Comey, etc. You want to charge people for not registering as a foreign lobbyist? That's fine. You charge Paul Manafort. But then you also charge John Podesta. But they don't. Every time it's a double standard. And that's what I can't tolerate, and none of us should. So let's look at the double standard here on this Fox article. And I suppose it would help if I post the link for you all so you can find. If you're listening on podcast, I'll read it to you. Don't worry. There's the link for the rest of you. Okay, day one of the Kavanaugh allegations. This is September 16th, 2018. Within minutes of the Washington Post story outlining Ford's claim that Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her at a high school party more than 3 decades earlier, the New York Times immediately publishes a story stating that Kavanaugh's nomination was, quote, in turmoil. Ford presents no independently verifiable evidence that she ever met Kavanaugh. CNN also reports that the news immediately with an article, and another likening the news to the Anita Hill testimony, and another describing the White House as mounting an intense effort to squash the accusation, and another describing a senator's assessment of Kavanaugh's nomination would go forward, and another describing how Democrats would push for a delay in Kavanaugh's confirmation vote. Senator Dianne Feinstein announces her opposition to Kavanaugh. Quote, Supreme Court justices should not be an extension of the Republican Party, she says. They must also have unquestionable character and integrity, and serious questions remain about Judge Kavanaugh in this regard, as indicated in information I referred to the FBI. Feinstein had first received Ford's accusations weeks earlier, but chose not to release them to investigators or the media until Kavanaugh's initial confirmation hearings had concluded. All right, so what do we know from that? Media went wild. This is the first day. The media went wild. CNN published like 5 stories themselves. Washington Post, the New York Times. Feinstein comes out and says, hey, Supreme Court's a very prestigious position. We can't have someone with these sorts of questions. That's why I've referred this matter to the FBI. That's day one of Kavanaugh. March 25th, 2020. This is day one of the Biden accusation. Let's see how this goes. It happened, quote, it happened all at once, and then his hands were on me and underneath my clothes, Reade tells podcast host Katie Halper. Quote, he said, come on, man, I heard you liked me. For me, it was like everything shattered. I wanted to be a senator. I didn't want to sleep with one. Reade was a staffer for Biden at the time. Reade says she told her brother, Colin Moulton, as well as her mother and friend about the incident at the time. Both Moulton and the friend confirmed Reade's account in interviews with The Intercept. Reade's mother has died, but footage has emerged of her calling in CNN at the time with the story about her daughter's problems with the senator. Meanwhile, CNN wonders, quote, why is Bernie Sanders still running for president? The Reade claim is not mentioned on the network or on air or online. The New York Times publishes a story explaining that Biden was growing, quote, impatient with the idea of more debates with Bernie Sanders. The Reade claim is not mentioned anywhere in the paper, which has slammed Republicans in August 2018 for covering up Kavanaugh's past. The Intercept reports that a darling of the Me Too movement, the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, refused to help Reade with legal expenses, citing Biden's presidential run and its nonprofit status. Starting to see a difference there on day one and day two? Or on day one between Kavanaugh and Biden? Every major news outlet going breathlessly about Kavanaugh when those accusations came out. With Joe Biden, no one reports it. You had the Intercept. All of these lawyers, all of these agencies, the ACLU, which is mind-blowing, the American Civil Liberties Union, it's supposed to be for things like due process, defending they'll defend Nazis, they'll defend the KKK, they defend everyone's right to free speech. That's what they were supposedly all about. Innocent until proven guilty. They came out against Kavanaugh. Here we have legal funds for people in the Me Too movement, women that are accusing others of sexual assault. They won't even help Tara Reade because she's going against Biden. What happened to hashtag believe all women? That's just day one. Let's go on. Day two, September 17th, 2018. This is Kavanaugh again. Second day after the Kavanaugh allegations. You ready? Here's what happens. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calls for an FBI background investigation into the claims against Kavanaugh. We need the FBI to step forward and ensure that the Senate and American public have complete information about this troubling alleged incident before a hearing is held. CNN calls the Ford accusation a, quote, watershed moment for the GOP. The Huffington Post runs a story quoting Biden as saying, quote, women's claims of sexual assault should be presumed to be true. Biden remarks, quote, for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she's talking about is real, whether or not she forgets facts, whether or not it's been made worse or better over time. But nobody fails to understand that this is like jumping into a cauldron. Biden has previously said women should be presumptively believed. And there's a clip of him from January 2018 saying it. Now, let's hold there for a moment. There you have Joe Biden saying, hey, for a woman to come up in such a national spotlight way, she's putting herself into a lot of media pressure and stuff. So no one would just make that up. So the essence of what she's saying, because she's jumping into such a cauldron, must be true. Well, the same could be said of Tara Reade. Now, why should Joe Biden not be held to the standard that he just said there? Let's go back. Let's see what he said again. A woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she's talking about is real, whether she forgets facts or what's been made better or worse over time. Women's claims of sexual assault should be presumed to be true. That's September 17th, 2018. That's Joe Biden. This isn't 20, 30 years ago. Now, why can't I say that? Tara Reade's claim of sexual assault should be presumed to be true. Why is it different? Now, how did they treat Tara Reade's allegations on day two? March 26, 2020. Jimmy Kimmel interviews Biden, and the two discuss where's Waldo. Kimmel does not ask Biden about Reade. Schumer, speaking on the Senate floor, touts a Green New Deal. He accuses Republicans of refusing to admit that climate change is real. CNN teases an upcoming CNN town hall with Biden. The Reade accusations are not discussed on air in the network's preview coverage. You remember after the Kavanaugh thing? That's all. Go back and watch my videos. Go back to 2018. September 2018. I was doing 2-3 videos a day. Everybody was talking about it nonstop. With Joe Biden, nope, couldn't be different. Day 3 of Kavanaugh, September 18th, 2018. Kavanaugh's nomination officially descends into chaos, CNN reports. The New York Times publishes an op-ed from Anita Hill. For those of you who don't remember, Anita Hill is the woman who accused Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, of putting a pube on her soda. Another allegation that never was substantiated by fact, but she's considered a hero. She argues, quote, with the current heightened awareness of sexual violence comes heightened accountability for our representatives. Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii tells all men to shut up and suggests Kavanaugh doesn't deserve due process because of rulings that she perceives as pro-life. See? No due process for the Republicans. Was Mazie Hirono, has she been quoted saying anything about Joe Biden? Nope. March 27th, this is day 3 for Biden, 2020. CNN's Anderson Cooper does not ask Biden about Reade's claims in a lengthy virtual town hall. In its write-up of the event, CNN assures readers, Joe Biden, he's just like the rest of us. We sit in our back porch and they sit out in the lawn with 2 chairs, the network says of Biden and his wife Jill. They talk through everything that's happened during their day now that they are home from school. Who's driving who crazy? The Huffington Post covers Reade's claim. The outlet notes, last April, Reade was one of 8 women to accuse the former vice president of inappropriate touching. The article goes on to observe, however, that when she first accused Biden of inappropriate touching, Reade was accused of being politically motivated and called a Russian operative. After a Medium post in which she praised Russia and its President Putin. Reade has said she did not initially outline the full extent of Biden's alleged sexual assault, including the digital penetration, out of embarrassment. Going back to that Russia line, Believe all women, except those that accuse the Democrats, and then they must be Russian operatives. Now, we know the Russia thing's a lie, as I'll get to in the next story, the Flynn story. But here we have it. Oh, yeah. So day 3. Can you imagine? Imagine that CNN was doing a town hall with Brett Kavanaugh on the 3rd day after those accusations. You really think it wouldn't have came up? That's all they did. CNN was bringing Michael Avenatti on 12 hours a day, it seemed, to bring a woman called Julia Swetnick, who was an adult, who claimed she was buying underagers alcohol and watching them be gang raped party after party after party. That would mean, as an adult, she facilitated the drugging of children, or children's not the right word, of teenagers to be gang raped. And she knew they were getting gang raped. That turned out to be a total lie, but CNN covered it as if it was true. Now they want no part. They don't even bring up the allegations against Biden. Day 4 with Kavanaugh. The Guardian reports that Christine Ford's life has been turned upside down by her accusation, noting that she's received death threats. The paper does not note that Kavanaugh and his family, as well as Republican senators, also received death threats. Day 4 with Biden, March 28th, 2020. The Guardian laments, quote, it's hugely frustrating to see conservatives who couldn't give a damn about the multiple sexual assault allegations against Donald Trump weaponize the accusations against Biden. However, it's also frustrating to see many liberals turning a blind eye. The accusations against the former vice president are serious. Why aren't they being taken seriously? Now, first, notice how that's what you'll see out of the media. Anytime they're forced begrudgingly to mention any of this, that Biden was accused of sexual assault, they go, oh, but Trump's worse, Trump's worse, Trump's worse. The Republicans are worse. Look, if there are people on Trump's side that were saying, I don't think Trump did anything wrong, I don't think Kavanaugh did anything wrong, and it's heinous that it was brought up, but now I do think that Joe Biden sexually assaulted her, and they're not afforded. In other words, they afforded innocent until proven guilty with Trump or with Kavanaugh, but they won't do that with Biden. Yeah, that's hypocritical. But we can see the far greater thing that's happening is all of the Democrats in the media and the academia and the entertainment industry in Silicon Valley that said Kavanaugh's guilty, that are now saying, oh, Biden did nothing wrong. Of course we believe Biden. Day 12, September 27, 2018. This is for Kavanaugh. CNN's Chris Cuomo asked a guest if Kavanaugh was known as a virgin at Yale University. When the guest, a former classmate of Kavanaugh, rebuffs the question, Cuomo explains that he felt it was relevant given Kavanaugh's claim he was a virgin through college. South Carolina's GOP Senator Lindsey Graham explodes, says it's the most unethical sham he's seen in politics. We all remember that. The New York Times describes Kavanaugh and Graham's behavior as a typical display of, quote, white male anger. Guy Benson, a townhall.com political editor at Fox News, tweeted this week that a non-conservative contact in the media had messaged him to belatedly praise Graham's comments. I thought he was a loon to say Kavanaugh hearings were all about power, the source said. In reality, he was right all along. Of course. Day 12 with Biden, April 5th, 2020. A self-described movie enthusiast posts a transcript of Reade's claims on a message board. CNN and the New York Times, still 12 days in, have not mentioned Reade's story. Alyssa Milano suddenly embraces due process. Isn't that weird? Now, is there any... Of course they're now embracing due process. I told you at the time of the Kavanaugh thing that the reason that this was a watershed moment was that The United States, if you watched the little entry video I did before my live stream, it's the greatest country in the history of the world because it focused on the individual. The legal precipice and concept that extrapolates from that is that innocent until proven guilty and the idea of due process. The Democrats literally said, no, we're going to reverse that. It's now guilty until proven innocent. Believe all women. Now, this goes back to the cultural Marxism that I talk about a lot. Cultural Marxism is the idea that we don't look at each other as individuals. Remember, this is the antithesis of what I said makes the United States great, that it's all about the individual, personal liberty and personal responsibility. Cultural Marxism says, no, you are not an individual. You are just a collection of traits. So instead of me being Rob Noor, an individual, I am white, I'm male, I'm Christian, I'm born in the United States, but I'm fat, so I'm oppressed because I'm fat, right? Please. So they look at and they say, oh, these groups are oppressed. White, that's oppressor. Every group's just, you're either oppressor or oppressed. This is stupid for a litany of reasons, which I've talked about at great length before. Not the least of which is every group is simultaneously oppressor and oppressed at the same time. Reality is not an old Western with white hats and black hats. That's not the real world. No one's purely good or purely bad. No race is purely good or purely bad. And to lump us in as not individuals, but just members of a race or members of a gender or members of a sexual preference is ludicrous. And it's used not out of a sense of social justice like they claim, but it's used for power. Because it creates division and allows them to ally groups that they can say, you're all special victims, so let's work together and get those evil oppressors, and it allows them to consolidate power and cause through division. So this cultural Marxism, it said, believe all women, but just like all black people are oppressed, just like Muslims are oppressed, just like gay people are oppressed, just like women are oppressed, you only get those oppression points. What's the big rule? What do I always talk about? You only get those points if you agree with their narrative, with the establishment left-wing narrative. If you don't, let's say you're Kanye West or Candace Owens and you're black. Hey, you're black, you're an oppressor, right? No. The left goes after them harder because now you're disproving their narrative. So it's never been about believe all women or help black people or help gay people. That's all a lie, as this story is proving. It's about how can we use people and how can we use these ideas to consolidate political power? That's all it's ever been about. So Alyssa Milano, she doesn't even realize how she's a hypocrite. And it's not just her. She just happens to be one of the faces of the Me Too movement. And she's smug and arrogant. And I have no doubt that she doesn't see the hypocrisy within her, just like many of these social justice warrior progressive types. They don't see it. When you tell them things like, look, you can't start saying we should ban speech I don't like because someday someone will accuse you of speech they don't like and you'll be silenced. They can't see that far ahead. Look, you guys shouldn't cheer for a corrupt FBI because eventually the FBI will be corrupt against people like you or people that you support. They can't see it. They're like, no. As long as right now the FBI is corrupt and helping me, so I don't care. And so Alyssa Milano, she doesn't see. All she knows is, okay, Kavanaugh, Republican, might overturn Roe v. Wade. Yeah, he's evil. He must be a rapist, throw him in jail forever, destroy his family. He shouldn't be allowed to have a position. He's guilty, obviously. That's it. Oh, so can you explain to me, the evidence that you came to that conclusion? What exactly was it that Christine Blasey Ford said that made you jump to that conclusion? Oh, I don't care. Remember, she was at the hearing. Alyssa Milano doesn't know. She probably doesn't even know what the hell Christine Blasey Ford said. All she knows is Kavanaugh bad. He might be against abortion. He's bad. That's it. Joe Biden, he's for abortion. He's good. So the details of the assault allegations, they don't matter. And we have far more evidence that leads to Joe Biden potentially being guilty than Kavanaugh. We still, to this day, don't have one piece of evidence that Kavanaugh ever met Christine Blasey Ford, other than at the hearings. We know that Tara Reade worked under Biden in the 90s. We don't have one contemporaneous witness. And I had someone ask me what contemporaneous means. It means at the time. So if you were sexually assaulted, you would probably tell friends, family, police. co-workers, etc. We don't have one instance of that with Christine Blasey Ford. Not only do we have that with Tara Reade, we actually have audio of her mom calling in, saying that something bad happened with her daughter and a senator. She has named people that are coming forward saying, yes, we were told this at the time. Meanwhile, Christine Blasey Ford cites her friend, her best friend at the time, Leland Kaiser, as being witness to this party that she was supposedly sexually assaulted at. And Leland Kaiser says, no, it never happened. Yet despite all of this, Alyssa Milano, the Democrats, the media, the entertainment industry as a whole, almost all the academia, Silicon Valley, all of them say, even with the more evidence, Joe Biden's innocent, clearly, we're not going to believe Tara Reade, and Kavanaugh is guilty, we are going to believe Christine Blasey Ford. If you take politics out of it, and you just literally look, you just said person A, prominent political person A and prominent political person B, accused by woman X and woman Y. And you didn't have the names, and yet, okay, prominent person A, there is no proof that he ever met this woman. No one was told contemporaneously that an incident ever occurred. The story has changed 15 to 20 times. The witness that woman X gives says that it never happened. And then with prominent person B, the woman did work under him. The woman did tell people at the time. We have video footage of that woman's mother calling in to a news broadcast saying something happened with her daughter. Now, does this mean Joe Biden's guilty? No, but there's clearly more evidence to at least warrant suspicion than there was with Kavanaugh. And yet the reactions couldn't be more different. If you said that, or if I told you, if I reversed the political affiliations, if I said, Kavanaugh, Kavanaugh, he had a woman clerking for him in the early 90s, and she accused him of putting his hand up her skirt and penetrating her. And her mom called in C-SPAN to talk about it, and her friends, everyone would say, oh yeah, well, not everyone, all these Democrats, oh, he's guilty. That's it. That's all we need. Imagine if they were trying to use quotes in the yearbook as proof that Kavanaugh did something. If there would have been any evidence, if a photo would have surfaced of them at the same, gym together or something, that'd have been it. That'd have been all the proof that they needed. But with Joe Biden, totally different. Nope. Let's get through this real quick. Day 16 with Kavanaugh, October 1st, 2018. The New York Times embarks on a deep dive, reporting that Kavanaugh was once questioned by police after a bar fight in 1985. A police report even said Kavanaugh threw ice at a patron. Meanwhile, the ex-boyfriend of Julie Swetnick, the third woman to make uncorroborated lurid allegations of sexual misconduct against Kavanaugh, tells Fox News exclusively that she had threatened to kill his unborn child and at times even bizarrely asked him to hit her. Right after I broke up with her, she basically called me many more times and said, "You will never see your unborn child alive." According to Vanessa, Swetnick told him at the time, "I'm just going to go over there and kill you guys." Day 16 for Biden. Reade files a criminal complaint with Washington, D.C. police, alleging that she was sexually assaulted in 93. Remember, Blasey Ford wouldn't file a criminal complaint, but Reade did. Day 18, Kavanaugh. It's widely reported that Leland Kaiser, Ford's lifelong friend and supposed witness at the party in which Kavanaugh allegedly assaulted Ford, doesn't back Ford's account. Later, Kaiser would say that much of Ford's account didn't make any sense, including how Ford couldn't remember how she got home from the party. Kaiser would also say she was pressured by Ford's associates at the time to change her story to corroborate Ford's account. Quote, "I was told behind the scenes that certain things could be spread about me if I didn't comply," Kaiser told the New York Times. "I don't have any confidence in this story." Remember, who's Leland Kaiser? That's Ford's best friend. So this isn't some Kavanaugh-loving lady. It's the woman's best friend, the accuser's best friend, saying, no, her story doesn't make sense, that didn't happen, and then being attacked by people connected to Ford, telling her, "You better change your story and lie, or else we're going to go to the press with lurid details about you." With Kaiser's statement, it becomes clear no one can contemporaneously corroborate Ford's story. Meanwhile, protesters let out a collective Stop Kavanaugh scream at a protest in Brooklyn. Have we seen the Me Too movement protesting Biden? Anyone seen that? Oh, no? Oh, well. But trust them, believe all women, right? House Speaker Pelosi assures demonstrators in Washington, quote, "This isn't about politics or anything else. A Democratic aide is arrested and would later be convicted in a scheme to dox Republican lawmakers who support Kavanaugh by revealing their personal information online. Day 18 for Joe Biden. The Times covers Reade's accusations and makes sure to note that Reade could face criminal penalties if she filed a false police report. Attempting to explain why the Times waited so much longer to report on Reade's accusations, Times executive editor Dean Beckett claims, quote, Kavanaugh was already in the public forum in a large way, end quote, although he does not explain why that logic doesn't apply to Biden. The Times piece focuses on unrelated sexual misconduct accusations against President Trump. As I said above, if they have to talk about Biden, they'll make sure to throw Trump in, and largely dismisses Reade's allegations as uncooperated by her co-workers, even though the Times notes later in its piece that Reade's claim was contemporaneously corroborated by two of Reade's friends. Beckett would also admit the story was edited after publication at the request of the Biden campaign to remove a reference to Biden's past history of inappropriate touching, including many photographs and even video showing Biden touching women and making them visibly uncomfortable. No notation in the story indicates it was edited. According to a copy of the Times article saved by the Internet Archive Wakeback Machine, the Times originally reported, quote, no other allegation about sexual assault surfaced in the course of reporting, nor did any former Biden staff members corroborate any details of Ms. Reade's accusation. The Times found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Biden, beyond the hugs, kisses, and touching that women previously said made them uncomfortable. After the Biden campaign's request, the paragraph now reads, no other allegation about sexual assault surfaced in the course of the reporting, nor did any former Biden staff members corroborate any details of Ms. Reade's allegations. The Times found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Mr. Biden. Now think about what just this section means. This is how easy the Democrats have it. Not only has this story been buried for Biden, not only did the media do the work of the Democrats by rabidly going after Kavanaugh when there was no evidence to support the allegations, but even that's not good enough. I say this all the time. The Democrats, the establishment, will not be happy until they have 100% control of the flow of information. That's why they have to crack down on independent content creators on YouTube and Twitter. They can't even have one voice out there. So when the Times is doing Biden's dirty work, going after this woman, going after Trump, while they're reporting about Biden, they're basically being a PR piece for Biden. Even that's not good enough. Biden's team contacts him and says, no, we need you to do more. We don't like this one sentence. Take it out. Yes, sir, Mr. Biden. That's our free press. That's the gray lady, the New York Times, the supposed gold standard of the free press. The ones that are telling you that people like me are fake news, that we need to be censored off online. There they are, working hand and foot with Joe Biden. Hashtag believe all women, though, right? Later in the day, the Washington Post also covers Reade's claim for the first time. Both the Post and the Times mention accusations against President Trump. Can you imagine if they were covering Kavanaugh and they were like, yeah, but Keith Ellison, yeah, but Bob Menendez, or any other Democrat, yeah, but Bill Clinton? Of course not. I think we're good. You get the picture. Now, is there any doubt? There is no one that can make a credible claim. None. I'll play devil's advocate. I'll give the best arguments I've heard against this. One, there's no proof that Biden did anything wrong. Second, Kavanaugh was like a frat guy and Biden wasn't, so therefore Kavanaugh must have did it. Can anyone come up with anything? If you were in the camp that said, I believe Christine Blasey Ford, Kavanaugh's a rapist or a sexual assaulter, he needs to be removed from public office, how could you not have that take with Joe Biden? No explanation at all. There's none. So Biden goes on Morning Joe this morning. Well, two things to talk about. First, I'm not going to bring either of these videos up, but the first was a video of Nancy Pelosi. She was asked yesterday in the press poll. Someone actually, and this is the thing. What this shows is how weak the Democrats are. Look, it's the same with things like affirmative action, which I'm incredibly against. Our government has no business making racial-based policies and things like that. And their people are right. When you do that, it harms other races. Like white people, particularly Asian people, are harmed by affirmative action policies at universities, for example. But it also harms the group that they're claiming to help. In that case, with affirmative action, black people. The war on poverty policies designed to help the inner city have kept the inner city down for 50 years. That's why we see all kinds of problems in these inner cities, such as childbirths out of wedlocks, etc., that have more than tripled since the war on poverty was issued to solve those problems. Because when you make people dependent on you, it harms them generationally. The same is true here. The Democrats and the establishment never, ever, ever, ever has to face difficult questions. Ever. Everything is soft-pedaled for them. Everything. Celebrities endorse them. The media's got their back. And so when they are forced to answer a difficult question, they have no clue. They're just like, how dare you? The media is 99% on their side and 99% adversarial to their opponents. And that's not enough. Anytime they get asked a difficult question, they're incredulous. Like, let me give you an example. I've done tons of videos and write-ups on, remember when a Bernie Sanders supporter shot up Steve Scalise in a Republican ball field? You remember that? Now, I remember when some nut job at Charlottesville ran his car and killed a girl. Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi and all these Democrats said, that's Trump's fault. That's Trump's rhetoric. He caused that. So when a Democrat supporter believes the Democrat and the media rhetoric that says that the Republicans' healthcare plan will kill millions of people, and he shoots at the Republicans, did Bernie Sanders say, to be fair, I said that the rhetoric caused the running over at Charlottesville, and therefore when my supporter shot up a Republican ball field, it is also my rhetoric's fault. Did Bernie say that? No! He said, of course it's not my rhetoric's fault. When Nancy Pelosi was asked about it, she bit the reporter's head off. How dare you accuse us? How dare you? How dare you hold me to the same standard that I want you to hold the Republicans to? Same thing went on here. So someone said, Ms. Pelosi, you said that we need to believe all women and have FBI investigations, etc. when it was the Kavanaugh situation. So how are you coming out endorsing Joe Biden now? And Pelosi goes, I don't need to be lectured to. I know that Joe Biden's a good man. He has daughters, and he's a good man. How does that answer the question? This is always the standard of the Democrats. Remember, I say this all the time. Tucker Carlson says this all the time. They always accuse you of what they themselves do. We now know, who was it that was pushing Russian disinformation and propaganda for 3 years? That was the Democrats in the media, pushing the allegations in the Steele dossier that was sourced by Kremlin officials. That's who was, they accused you when you said, I don't believe this. So they're pushing Russian propaganda. When you say, hey, wait a minute, this sounds like BS. They were like, oh, you're pushing Russian propaganda then. They accuse you of exactly what they're doing. Same thing here. You get held to the, oh no, we're helping women. We care about women. They don't. They're weaponizing these sexual assault allegations. Not only is that bad for our system of governance, for the Republicans and the people that are accused like Kavanaugh, but it's also horrible for actual victims of sexual assault that are being trivialized. Remember, Feinstein sat on Blasey Ford's allegation for 6 weeks. She could have took it to the FBI. Christine Blasey Ford said, I never wanted my name to be made public. I wanted to tell Feinstein so she could have the FBI quietly investigate this. But that wasn't good for Feinstein because Feinstein knew the FBI wouldn't find anything, and so it couldn't help them politically. So instead, she waited till the last minute, weaponized the sexual assault allegation, and made Christine Blasey Ford's name public when she didn't want her name public, but she didn't care. To hell with that woman. Who cares if her life's ruined? Dianne Feinstein didn't care. The Democrats didn't care. She was just a stepping stone to help achieve political power. That was it. The same is true here. They could give 2 shits less about Tara Reade. They don't care. They want her to shut up. Pelosi, when she's asked by me, how isn't the media asking every single Democrat that said something about Kavanaugh, why are you endorsing Joe Biden again? Of course, there was no difficult follow-up to that question either. But again, Pelosi, I don't need lectured. You're right. Imagine if she was treated like Kavanaugh was treated. You think she could handle that? Then look at Joe Biden. I guess Mika Brzezinski decided to put her work clothes on today and actually ask a difficult question. Now remember, Joe Biden said of Mike Bloomberg, the fact that in the Me Too movement and Believe All Women, that Mike Bloomberg would have non-disclosure agreements. What an NDA is let's say someone accuses you of some impropriety. You could pay them a sum of money and have them sign a non-disclosure agreement that says, I'm giving you X amount of dollars, $50,000, but you're never allowed to go public with this story. And many times alleged victims will say, okay, I'll take that money. It's worth it to them. Whatever. Biden says, if you really didn't harm women, then you should allow those women to speak, even though they signed the NDAs. That's what Biden said in February, 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. What's Biden say today? Brzezinski says there are allegations that Tara Reade in the 90s filed a complaint, and it's on record at the University of Delaware that kept records on this stuff. Because Biden came out and said, oh, you can check my records at the Library of Congress. And Mika's like, well, okay, why not the University of Delaware records? Why do you still have them sealed? And Biden doesn't know how to respond. He's just like, because I'm still running for public office, and I've had conversations that deserve to be private that I don't want people going through. And Mika's like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, let's do a search for Tara Reade's name to see if her name comes up in any of those sealed documents. And Biden's like, no, who would do that? No, why would we need to do that? You just have to believe me. Oh, so he wanted all the records unsealed with his opponent, Mike Bloomberg, but when it's Joe Biden, no, it's perfectly fine. What did they say? Every time Trump does it, Trump wouldn't release his tax record. What's he got to hide? But here we go with Joe Biden. What's he have to hide? Release the records, right? Now, here's the last thing I'll say about this. The story is not Joe Biden. Yes, he's a hypocrite. Yes, it's worth pointing it out. The story is not the sexual assault allegation. To me, anyways. I'm not going to vote for or against someone based on an unproven allegation. I'm not going to do it. The story is the people that shape our public narrative are so transparently hypocritical that they're unabashedly engaged in a double standard and no one cares. Sure, those of us that knew this all along care, but the lies are so great and so many, and they happen like this. There's a new earth-shattering story every day that proves how corrupt they are. You can't even keep up with them. And whose fault is it? You know who I blame? Of course you blame those that are doing it. The Democrats, the establishment. I also blame the Republicans. Why? Because they're so feckless and inept. They don't know how to fight back, period. They've allowed this crap to go on for decades. They lost the narrative. 98% of the narrative is controlled by the Democrat Party and the establishment. So much so that the average person out there, they don't even care anymore. Yeah, whatever. And so it's allowed to go on. Trump's a sexual assaulter. He said grab a woman by the P word. No proof he ever did it. No accusation he did it. Just that comment. Oh, that was enough. He's a sexual assaulter. But then that's supposedly what Joe Biden's accused of actually doing, not just saying. They could care less. Is there anyone? I would say, if you know anyone, I don't care who it is. You could bring on a Rhodes Scholar that would like to debate me on this. Why it's appropriate to say hashtag believe all women when it came to Christine Blasey Ford with Kavanaugh, but it's not to do that with Tara Reade. No one with any shred, even if you're a Democrat, with any shred of objectivity could look at this and say, yeah. All anyone does is say, yeah, but Trump, you're going to talk about Biden? Let's talk about what Trump did with women. Trump's worse for women. Okay, then fine. Don't vote for Trump either if that's how you feel. Now, how are you going to justify your endorsement of Biden? And this is what they always do. They weaponize something, right? They'll say something like this. This happened in 2016 during the election. They said, you could never make jokes when it comes to the objectification of women or things like rape or things like that. And then here's an article, a magazine that covers the Democrat donkey raping Donald Trump. You can't make fun of people's bodies. That's always inappropriate. Look at this orange tubbo, Donald Trump. And then when you call them out in their hypocrisy, they're like, oh, you're going to call out people body shaming? Well, you're voting for Donald Trump? No, I'm not calling out people body shaming. I don't give a shit. You make fun of people. I have a sense of humor. If I don't like it, I'll change the channel. What I'm pointing out is you went ape shit over people body shaming, and that's what you're doing. You're a hypocrite. It's the same here. You said believe all women. I said this is incredibly dangerous. It's destroying the country, and then it'll eventually be turned on you. You said, I don't care. We have to believe all women. And then it was predictably turned on you. And now you say, no, don't believe all women. We need due process. And then when I call you out, you say, but Trump. And you're right, Dean. No one will be talking about it in a week or two. This is why we have to remember this stuff. This is why you need to vote out the worthless Republic. Of course, vote out the Democrats. But who are you going to put it? You got to vote for someone. Someone's got to get the position. So what are you going to do? Put a bunch of Republicans that are like, well, we just want to play nice. We don't want to call out the hypocrisy. Lindsey Graham, as that article said, at least went on at the Kavanaugh hearing. Thank God he did, because the way the hearing was going. How'd the Republicans approach it? We're going to bring in a woman just to ask questions, and we're going to be quiet and have humility the whole time. Yes. We respect the alleged victim, and yeah, we respect and we understand it's a tough situation. You think that's how the Democrats are handling it? Thank God Lindsey Graham got a little blustery. But that's all he is bluster. Remember? How many times have we heard from Lindsey Graham? I'm going to get to the bottom of investigate. We're going to have investigations. Investigations on this Ukraine situation. Mark my words. It will not stand. How those investigations coming, Graham? I'm running for office in 2022. You should run. Local, state, federal, whatever. It's time to get these bums out. The policies don't even matter anymore. Yes, you still want to endorse someone whose policies you agree with, but the most important thing we could do is end the corruption and win back the narrative. Has your congressperson been on television? Have they been vocal about this crap? No, I would guess, because there's only a handful that are. It's outrageous. That's how they get away with this. You want to know why we're under a lockdown right now? And look, don't accuse me of passing the buck, because I gave my fair share to Trump. The real reason that we have a lockdown, it's because people have been pacified because the narrative has been controlled by the establishment for so long that they don't even bother to try to speak up anymore. Because the people they elected to fight back, the Republicans, are worthless. That's why. They let it go for decades. They don't even know, like on Capitol Hill. They got, what was his name? Robert Epstein, a professor that's on there. It's saying, hey, Google's got the potential to change 16 million votes in the 2020 election. And the Republicans are like, oh, yeah, interesting. Unbelievable. Now let's go to the next story. The Flynn situation. Look, I'm not going to bring up the documents. You've heard it. You know what's going on. Let me just give a 2-minute rundown, which is tough for me. I'm so wordy. Flynn talks to him. Trump wins the election. Flynn's going to be the national security advisor. Part of his job is going to be dealing with counterparts in other countries, including those that we're in adversarial relationships with, like China, Russia, Iran, etc. So as the incoming diplomat, oftentimes what you do is, even before you're sworn in, you're talking to diplomats from other countries. That's normal. Obama just sanctioned Russia and kicked out a bunch of Russian diplomats and oligarchs because of supposed election interference. So the incoming guy, Flynn, is talking to Kislyak, his Russian counterpart, saying, hey, when we get in there, don't retaliate. Leave Trump get in, and then we'll see what we'll do. Which, by the way, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Anyone telling a hostile foreign country to us, hey, don't retaliate and harm America, it's fine by me. I don't care if they're being honest or not, right? What do you want? If Kislyak called Flynn, you want him to say, hey, get pissed, man. Throw sanctions back at us. Let's start a war. That's what Obama wants. Of course not. Is that what Democrats would have wanted Obama to do when he was talking to Iran? Let's say he talked to Iran in 2009 instead of 2013. Would he have said, hey, I'm coming in. I can't talk to you right now, Iran. If you want to go to war with the U.S., you do it. Of course not. He would be talking to Iran saying, look, I'm going to be different than Bush. So stupid. Anyways, the Democrats and the media and the academia, etc., they all said that was a violation of the Logan Act, which is this obscure law that says that basically you're not allowed, if you're not officially designated as a member of the executive branch, you're not allowed to be going across seas talking to adversaries, trying to discuss policy. And the reason for this makes sense. For example, back in the day when we were constantly feuding with the British, you didn't want a member of Congress going over to the king in Britain saying, hey, here's secretly what I'll be working on to help you on our end. Makes sense. But no one's ever been prosecuted under this act. Meanwhile, we know for a fact that Iran's an adversary to us. John Kerry, who's not an incoming official, is constantly over there harming U.S. policy. He's not charged with the Logan Act. He hasn't been investigated. The FBI hasn't decided to write up 302s on him if they interviewed him. None of that happened. So it was all garbage. Anyways, what happened was they went, Peter Strzok again, that FBI agent that could smell Trump supporters at Walmart and blah, blah, blah. Needed an insurance policy against Trump. Somehow he's at the center of every investigation, the Hillary investigation, Carter Page investigation, the FISA stuff. He's at the center of the Russia investigation into Trump. Here he is at Flynn. He's at the center of it. So he goes, this is what we knew previously. They interviewed Flynn. They did it basically not by the book. Instead of telling Flynn, hey, we're investigating a possible crime, you'll need a lawyer, they acted like it was just buddies talking over coffee. They initially said that they didn't feel Flynn lied. The case was closed. Then Mueller came on, and Strzok then changes his tune and says, no, I think Flynn lied. So they charged Flynn. It had been widely reported that they threatened Flynn's son with unrelated crimes. And the FBI, in a legal manner, said, we're going to charge your son with these crimes that have nothing to do with this, or you're going to plead guilty to this. So Flynn pled guilty because he didn't want to see his son get in trouble. Now, here's what's broke since then. We now know that Flynn's own lawyers, a law firm called Covington, withheld 7,000 pages of information to Flynn that would help prove his innocence. We know that the FBI withheld Brady information, Brady materials. Think about this. You're a prosecutor, and as you're going to prosecute Rob Noor, and in this step of prosecuting me for, double parking, they find conclusive evidence that proves I didn't double park. The law says they have to hand that evidence over to the defense, but the FBI didn't do that. So Flynn pled guilty to save his son. We now know that the FBI did not hand over Brady material. We now know that Flynn's own lawyers were working against Flynn and for the process. Imagine that. The lawyer you hire to defend you is actually working for the other side. That's what happened to Flynn. Now we know from documents that were released, just like people like me had been saying all along, but we could actually see it, that Strzok and the rest of them were setting Flynn up from the get-go. They knew that there was no underlying crime, so their own notes say their goal is to get him to admit to a crime or get him to lie. Now, what sort of investigator would be doing that? Think about the ramifications of what this means. Supposedly, the entire reason for this was the FBI was worried about Russian influence or interference, right? So they're admitting in their notes, we know that there's nothing here, but we still want to take Flynn down. Why? Why do they want to take Flynn down? If this is totally on the up and up, why would they care? Flynn? If he's guilty, he's guilty. But he's not guilty. They had the transcript of the call. So there's no need to interview Flynn at all. They know exactly what he said. So why interview him? Why write in the notes that you're trying to get him to lie so you could get him fired or arrested? Well, it has to do with the coup against Trump. And the idea that Flynn would have oversight over some of these agencies. Such as, you remember all those people that testified against Trump in the Ukraine impeachment? Yeah, maybe Flynn wouldn't put up with people working at these agencies that were seeking to undermine Trump in our country. At the FBI, at the CIA, at the State Department. So they needed him out. You remember during that impeachment? Did you hear what people said? Did you hear what all the witnesses said? Trump was messing with established foreign policy. Established foreign policy. In other words, their foreign policy. Because all those people at State Department, they don't think your vote matters. They run the show. And they don't want some little thing as tedious as your vote to put some guy in there that disagrees with them. So they're just going to do what they want anyways. They'll lie. They'll advise the president that he needs to do this or bad things will happen, just like Dr. Fauci. And if that doesn't work, like in the case with Ukraine, then they'll manufacture some scandal to try to get that person ousted. And it's not just me saying that. You know, Chuck Schumer, the head of the other party, the Democrats, he told you that. Trump shouldn't criticize these people. They'll find 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. He told you that publicly. That's why they wanted to take Flynn down. Now let's talk. What does this mean? That's the very first scout that they claim. Every single person that they've taken down, I've said this for years, every single person connected to Trump that they've accused or charged with a crime, I could point to you to someone in the intel agencies or someone on the Democratic side that have committed that exact same crime, most of the time more blatantly. Every single time. And when you bring up how much of a sham the investigation was, what do they always say? Oh no, Mueller got 12 Russians. He got those 12 Russians that he charged with the troll farm, right? And he got Papadopoulos, and he got Flynn, and he got Carter Page, and he got Manafort. All with stuff unconnected to the original crime. But it turns out those 12 Russians, they had to drop that case because they didn't have evidence, as I told you during the Mueller hearing. That Mueller was admonished by a judge who told the judge, you have to stop saying this because you have no evidence. The media refused to cover it. You had to hear that from people like me. Every single one of these people, they say, see, it was worth it. See, Russia, it was worth it. Russia. Every single time it falls through. Now the first guy that they claim Flynn, it was a lie. It was corruption by the FBI. I wrote in October 21st, 2017, if the FBI used unverified opposition research to spy on the Trump campaign, it was the biggest political scandal in the history of this country. Not only was I right, but it's 10 times worse than that. They manufactured evidence to say the opposite of what it does to continue to spy on people. They knew that it not only was it unverified, but it was sourced by Kremlin officials, but they still used that information. They entrapped Flynn, and they sought out to do whatever they could to make him guilty, even when they knew it wasn't true. At the start of this, remember, Susan Rice unmasked Flynn's name. She was the Obama official. The National Security Advisor, I believe, as well. She unmasked Flynn. They knew. The Obama team knew. They were complacent in this. James Comey admitted on camera to big chortles and laughs from the audience. Yeah, I sent those people in. I sent the agents in to investigate Flynn. Yeah. No, it wasn't by the book. No, I didn't tell him anything. I didn't tell him he was being investigated. I wouldn't have got away with that with any other administration. And everyone's laughing. That's the head of the most powerful investigative agency in the history of the world admitting, yeah, we entrapped a guy. Sure, hell yeah, we didn't want him. Everything the FBI does is corrupt. Everything. I'm sick and tired of, oh, but wait, there might be good people at the FBI. I'm sure that's true. Get rid of the FBI. I've been screaming it for over a year. How much more evidence do we need to see? What's the defense that you've heard from this? I've heard one defense. You ready? Here's the defense of the Democrats, of the FBI shills, of the establishment shills, and in the media. Here's their defense of what the FBI did to Flynn. You ready? Oh, that's not out of the ordinary. The FBI does that stuff all the time. What? That's not a defense of the FBI. That's an indictment of them. The FBI manufactures evidence and traps people, knows the truth, but still falsely claims people are guilty to ruin their lives, all because they have a political disagreement with them? That happens all the time? Why do we have an FBI? What do they do? Any clue on that Vegas shooting? Nope. We don't know what's going on there. We're too busy entrapping people connected to Trump, changing evidence to say the opposite of what's true so we can still spy on Carter Page. Lying to FISA court saying, we talked to the subsource was totally honest, and leaving out the fact that what they were honest about was the entire case is bullshit. And every single time, what do we hear from all the charlatans that are like the media and the Democratic Party? What do they say? Oh, no, the FBI is great. If it was maybe a mistake. It was just incompetence. How many times? Remember, the IG came out after the IG report that was so damning and said that he looked at 28 other cases of FISA warrants, and in every single one of those 28 cases, the FBI broke their policy again. That's 29 for 29 that they were corrupt. Now, you've heard that everywhere else. You've heard it. You know, you've heard it here. By the way, and let me mark a couple more people that need to be called out. Screw Ben Shapiro and the Republicans like him. I would love to talk to Ben Shapiro. Go back and look and go watch any Ben Shapiro show about the whole Russia collusion thing. And then go back and watch his interview with Joe Rogan. He constantly was like, I don't see any proof that there's any corruption here. I don't think, don't explain through corruption, which you could just blame on good old-fashioned incompetence. Shapiro, the whole time was saying, I just don't believe these conspiracy theories. I don't think Trump did anything, but I don't think it was a conspiracy that the FBI's out to get him. Well, now we know it is true. That was true. So you were wrong, Shapiro, and you other Republicans that were taking that tack, you were all wrong. And so now that you know it was corruption, what are you doing? You act like it's just another story. Well, yeah, it's bad. It's bad the FBI did that. Yeah, but that's an understatement. Can someone we heard from the Democrats and the media and academia in Silicon Valley. We had to have hearings on Capitol Hill why troll farms about Russians posting on Pokemon Go and Facebook were a danger to this country. It was an act of war, we were told by Democratic senators. Russia disinformation. To this day, Silicon Valley uses that as an excuse to censor people online. Fake news, they say. We have to protect ourselves from fake news. Can someone explain to me how Russia could do 1/10 of what our FBI did to interfere? Does Russia have the power to arrest someone like General Flynn? Does Russia have the power to spy and wiretap on people? Are they connected to the U.S. media apparatus that will unmask and selectively release lies pushed forth by Russia to bring down a political candidate or political party? No, they don't have remotely any of that power. The FBI does. I said it from day one. You take Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, any adversarial country you want. Combine them. Their intelligence agencies and their ability to interfere in our system pales in comparison to what a corrupt FBI or CIA could do. And that's what we have evidence of. Yet the very people that sit there and said, oh my God, interfering in our system, that's an act of war. It's the biggest possible thing. They're silent. They told us not to question the FBI. And as the evidence comes out to show the corruption, proving that people like me were right for 3 years, they don't say shit. They just, oh, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, yeah, it was just a mistake. So screw Shapiro. Screw the Republicans. Every one of them. How, after the IG report, let's say that you were, you're not a maniac like me, and you're elected, and you're a Republican official. So you're going to bite your tongue until you see proof that the FBI was corrupt. After the IG report came out, how could you still be silent? Sure, most of them said, oh, it's very troubling. We're going to have investigations. We're going to get to the bottom of it. How were you not on television every day saying, did you all read that? The FBI manufactured evidence to spy on the President of the United States. We talk about Watergate in this country like a seminal moment in this country's history when two bumbling fools went through a hotel rifling through papers. Yet here we have Barack Obama's FBI changing evidence to say the opposite of what it actually said to spy on their political opponent for over a year. Yet nary a Republican made a peep. I would have been on every show. Anderson Cooper, Congressman North, thanks for being here today. Thanks a lot. So you wanted to talk about, your new bill. You have this new bill coming through the, infrastructure bill. What are your thoughts on that? Well, Mr. Cooper, before we talk about that, I would like you to acknowledge that we now know the FBI is corrupt. That your media channel, supposed media channel, was complacent in spewing interference from an agency set to harm our country and our duly elected president for 2 years. They changed evidence to say the opposite of what it actually said, to spy on the president. Now, you talked ad nauseum about things like Watergate and how... Before I answer one question, Mr. Cooper, can you explain to me why you are downplaying this? Do you think if this would have been George Bush doing this to Obama's administration, do you think that it wouldn't have been every single Democrat would have been foaming at the mouth screaming about it? And they'd have been right to. It would have been the only issue. But the Republicans, nope. So, Shapiro sucks. The Republicans suck. Terrible. Terrible. Trump sucks on it. And let me tell you why. Okay, it's a bit of an overstatement, but here's where I do blame Trump. They're just now getting around to releasing this information. How long has he said on this information? Look, here's a harsh truth, and I'm still going to vote for Trump, and would call myself a Trump supporter. But for my fellow Trump supporters, here's a harsh truth, and this is something I saw coming a long time ago, and I didn't like about Trump. And I voiced my concern about it, and most Trump supporters told me to shut my mouth. See, at the end of the day, I don't think Trump's really interested in justice over this whole thing. I don't. You know what Trump's interested in? Using it as a weapon against his opponents. Now, does he deserve to have some of that? Of course. He's the one whose life was turned upside down. I don't begrudge him that. But when that becomes your prima facie motivation, here's the kind of decision you could come up with. Hey, instead of releasing all this information, because remember, he could have declassified all this at any point, but he let it go. Some say, to leave the Democrats dig more of a hole. Really? As if just releasing it initially wouldn't have shown the hole they'd already dug? But here was his thinking. If we release it closer to the election, then we'll be able to make this a story going into the election, and that'll further help us get reelected. That's what he was thinking. And if you're really honest, I bet you come to the same conclusion. That's not the end of the world. But here's a problem with that. You ready? You ready for this? You see, one of the things I have against the whole Q people is this. I think Q's not... If you're the type of person that use Q to do your own what's the word I'm looking for? Your own research, and you came to your own conclusions, that's fantastic. If you're the type of Q person that's just basically like a cultist telling everyone that doesn't agree with everything Trump does that they're not a patriot, that's probably not a good thing. But I know a lot of good Q people, I really do. Q did not plan for this virus. He didn't. Or they, whatever they are. They didn't plan for it. And if you think they did, you need to really think critically about that. See, I've been saying on my channel for 6, 7, 8 months, I'm nervous because I go to all these places in real life, Republican meetings. I'm on places online, like places like Above Top Secret. I'm doing my channel, and I constantly hear this. Trump's going to win 40 out of 50 states. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be one of the biggest landslides. Trump's got it in the bag. And I was like, no, that's the wrong attitude to have. That's the attitude Hillary Clinton had that come out. Don't underestimate the corruption of the establishment. Last time, what brought them down was their hubris. They thought they believed their own BS so much, they didn't need to cheat more. They thought they had it in the bag. They were going to win 48 out of 50 states. 99% chance that they win. They lost. They will not make that mistake again. I said they'll intentionally collapse the economy. They'll do whatever dirty trick they can. And so when you say 99% chance Trump wins, 48 out of 50 states he's going to take, you're underestimating the power and the corruption of his opponents. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I said, a virus will be the cause of it. I didn't see that coming. But nonetheless, it's here and they're exploiting it. Because Barr and Jeff Sessions and the people that Trump appointed to head the DOJ let Brennan go, let Clapper go, let Comey go, let all these other people go. They let everyone in the Hillary investigation that we know was guilty go. Let them all go, some of which the statute of limitations has ran out on. And every single time I'm on this channel screaming, here's me outlining specifically the crimes they committed. No one disagrees with my outline. They just say it's part of a bigger plan. They couldn't charge them with these obvious crimes because they're going to get them later down the road on bigger crimes. No, that's not how it works. Charge them now for the crimes that you could prove, and then keep investigating and charge them with the bigger crimes. And if you don't, you set the precedent. As long as you don't commit treason, it's okay to screw with the president in these lesser ways. It's okay to lie to Congress. That shouldn't be the lesson that we're sending. And there's no guarantee you get them on these bigger crimes. And all these Q people said, it's in the bag. It's in the bag. Q's got it all figured out. Now what? Let me tell you what's happening. We have, like I've never seen before, corruption being outed by the FBI. No one gives a shit. Go ahead, knock on your neighbor's door. Ask what they think about the General Flynn situation. You know what they're concerned about? A virus, because it's being hyped up by the media. And then the smarter ones, or the more informed ones, you know what they're concerned about? Losing their livelihood. Losing their country. If they would have went after these criminals in the State Department, in the FBI, in the CIA, pointed out their connections to the media, their connections to the Democratic Party, if that would have been going on for 2 years, like it should have been, because the evidence was public of the crimes they committed, then people wouldn't have believed those same groups when they were like, we need to take all your rights away and we need to lock everyone down. Trump would have had the authority to say, what, the same people that were just trying to commit treason against the country, now we're supposed to believe them about this virus? But he didn't. And now, here we are. Now, lastly, my prediction on what's going to happen with this. I predict they're going to throw Peter Strzok under the bus. That's what will happen. They're going to act like, it was Strzok. He was a lone wolf. He was a terrible dude. It was Strzok. Comey didn't do anything. It was Strzok. Maybe Strzok will get Epsteined, or Strzok will, do the time in some cushy prison. Whatever. But that's going to be how they try to play it. It's not that the FBI is corrupt. Every single time. Comey, corrupt. McCabe, corrupt. Strzok, corrupt. Clapper, corrupt. It's always just one person. Never mind, it's the whole cabal at the top. We're supposed to ignore that. They all got fired, so it's okay. I wish I was the next Rush Limbaugh. It'd be nice not to be broke all the time, at the very least. Though I don't have a pain killer addiction like he did. Alcohol, maybe, but I like Rush, though. I'm just joking around. He's good, even if I disagree on some things. But so here we are. Listen, it's easy. If you want red meat, there's 1,000 channels you can go to right now that's going through this Flynn thing. I saw Tucker Carlson's show last night, and even I like Tucker a lot. He said something, I'm sure he wasn't thinking about it, but even that it raised an eyebrow. He said, they entrapped Flynn, and then they got him to lie. No, they didn't. Flynn didn't lie. I went through the 302s, Peter Strzok's 302. I went through it, and there's a video up on here. Just search my YouTube page. I go through the entire 302. They kept asking Flynn, did you talk to Kislyak about sanctions? And Flynn's like, I don't recall. Did you talk to him about sanctions? I don't remember that. And then the third time they ask him, he says, it could have happened, I just don't remember. That's what the FBI 302 said. So even their evidence showed that Flynn didn't break the law. So not only did they entrap him, they knew the truth. They knew there wasn't a crime. They interviewed him. Their own notes from the interview said there wasn't a crime, but they still charged him. Now here's another question. I've said this for I don't know how long. You mean to tell me, in a world where we all have one of these, you can capture video at a moment's notice. Our FBI still doesn't record their interviews. We just have to take the FBI agent's word for it. Are you kidding me? Knowing what we know about Peter Strzok right now, do you trust 1302 he ever wrote? If you do, I got a bridge to sell you. So instead of recording it, so we can actually see what, I don't know, Hillary Clinton said, or Flynn said, or Mills and Aberdeen said, instead they send this one corrupt guy in over and over and over who wants an insurance policy to take down Trump, who we now have his texts and phone calls saying, hey, even though there's no evidence against Flynn, we need to keep the investigation going. We have to take his word? How do I know they're just going to throw Strzok under the bus? You want to know why? Did you ever watch, I recommend this show for everyone, the show The Wire. I love The Wire. It's one of the best shows ever produced. You can find it, it's free on Amazon Prime. Anyways, it's about police in Baltimore and setting up a wire to break up drug rings. In the first season, they get excited because they realize these drug dealers that they're after, they're making all these political contributions. And so they're excited and they go to the higher ups and they're like, yeah, look, there's all these assets and money's getting into, political donations. And what do you think the higher ups do? Bury the case. Because the corruption's so deep, once you start unpeeling it, it's going to affect everyone. I don't think they have the stomach for it. What does it mean if the FBI is corrupt? How many counterterrorism cases or drug cases do you think the FBI's done? If I'm some drug dealer that was charged federally and Peter Strzok was involved in the case, how am I not calling my lawyer right now being like, dude, this guy's clearly a liar. He's clearly corrupt. I want my case thrown out. Now imagine that it's not just Strzok, but it was Comey and McCabe and Ray. And what if it went to the director of national intelligence, Clapper? Because it did. And what if it went to the head of the CIA, Brennan? Because it did. Now what? No one has the stomach for it. What would that mean? Thousands of cases? Totally done? Counterterrorism, drug cases, racketeering charges, all done by these corrupt people? What are you supposed to do? Just ignore that they were corrupt? Oh, they were corrupt when it came to Trump, but their work everywhere else must have been on the up and up. Ridiculous. Disband the FBI now. Get rid of the CIA now. Take all the money we spend on that, open up the country for one, and then give that money to law enforcement agencies with oversight. Chris Wray, the head of the FBI right now, is still burying evidence. So we can't see how corrupt things are. The IG report that showed that the FBI lied and changed evidence to say the opposite of what was true. Not just to hide evidence to get the warrant, but actually physically faked evidence to say the opposite of the truth so that they could spy on Trump and his team. Most of those agents still working at the FBI today. How is that possible? Now, the last thing I'll say is, I told everyone, while I'm ranting and raving and screaming at everything, like I want to do, how does this tie into the shutdown? Why do you believe anything they say? Why? In fact, people like, How did I know to be skeptical of the shutdown? How did I know to be skeptical of the FISA investigation? How did I know to be skeptical of impeachment? Most of you know this. You want to know? Good. How about this? Here's a tougher one. How did I know to be skeptical of the bombing on Syria when Assad supposedly gasses people? This isn't foolproof, but this is a pretty good indicator. You ready? If you see the neocons and the neolibs both agreeing on something, that's probably a bad thing. If you see CNN and MSNBC and Chuck Schumer and Mitt Romney all saying, oh, the FBI is beyond approach, they would never be corrupt. They're probably corrupt. You can start there. It's not always true, but 90% of the time it's true. And so when I see them all saying, oh, this virus, you can't question it, you have to do the shutdown. There you go. By the way, might as well get a little Trump bash woman. See what Trump said here about Sweden? See that tweet? Let's see if I can find this. From yesterday is your boy Trump. And mine, I guess. President Trump defended his decision to support social distancing measures in states that have implemented stay-at-home orders on Thursday, pointing to coronavirus deaths in Sweden, which has largely allowed businesses to remain open during the pandemic. In a tweet Thursday morning, the president noted that Sweden was facing a higher death rate from the coronavirus than neighboring Norway or Finland, which have both implemented lockdown procedures. Quote from Trump: despite reports to the contrary, Sweden is paying heavily for its decision not to lock down. As of today, 2,462 people have died there, a much higher number than neighboring countries of Norway, Finland, or Denmark. The United States made the correct decision. You see? That's Trump. I keep being told, oh, remember, liberate Michigan. That was his tweet. But then as soon as Georgia reopens, he's like, no, I disagree with that. I disagree with the decision. I disagree with Sweden not locking down. Okay. Why does Trump believe the very people that tried to take him down? Why? He's going to end up losing. That's what's going to happen. Because here's the truth. Everybody could say the mainstream media, they don't have sway. People don't believe them anymore. And that's true. But it's not just the media. It's all of our narrative is shaped by these people that hate Trump, the establishment people, particularly the establishment Democratic Party. It's all shaped by them. When things are going well, you could look, the average person, it's not about me or you. We know, we could see through the crap. But the average person, right? When they're having Jimmy Kimmel or their favorite athlete, LeBron James, or, Joe Scarborough or Anderson Cooper, and they're telling Trump's Hitler. After a while, they're like, yeah, this is garbage. Things aren't that bad. Things are actually going pretty good. They can see through it. But when things aren't going good, when they're losing their livelihood, for better or worse, a lot of people don't look at the minutia. They don't look at the little details. They just say, who do I perceive as being in charge? Donald Trump. Things are really bad. I'm going to blame Donald Trump. That's not fair, but that's how it goes. So yes, are the Democrats infinitely worse than Trump? Absolutely. But by Trump going along with everything they've wanted for years, because that's what he did. Massive wealth redistribution? Check. Shutting down of people's rights? Check. Collapsing the middle class and making them dependent on the government? Check. Right down the line. Democrat 101, globalist 101. Trump went right along with it. Still, to this day, tweeting the countries that didn't go along with it, like Sweden, making fun of them. States like Georgia that want to reopen and stop this nonsense, making fun of them. And I'm told by some Trump supporters, oh, you hate Trump. How dare you, blah, 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 blah. It's not that I dislike Trump. I see the minefield he's walking into. Jimmy Dore is this progressive that hates Trump. But he's funny, and funny solves all as far as I'm concerned. I think he's great, but I like his YouTube channel, Jimmy Dore. He was on this Russia hoax from the beginning. And he hates Trump and wants to see Trump taken out of office. But he has said over and over and over again that this Russia crap's a hoax. And he says that what it did was it helped Trump win. The mentality, because here's what's happening. The Democrats were rebuked because of the ideal of who was leading that party, Hillary Clinton. That's why they lost. Not because of Russia, not because of something scandalous. They lost because they're even with control of the narrative, with the deck being stacked in their favor 90% of the way. They were so repulsive on that ticket of Hillary Clinton that she lost. And so they need to change away from the ideals of Hillary Clinton and people like that. That's what Jimmy Dore says, right? Now, Jimmy Dore's attacked by other Democrats who say, if you don't believe Russia, you're helping Trump. Or if you don't believe the Russia hoax, you're helping Trump. You're spreading Russia propaganda. I feel the exact same way. When this bites Trump in the ass, I'm going to have a bunch of Trump supporters telling me, see, you should have blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to say, it's your fault. You did this. You cheered on Trump walking right off the cliff. You cheered him on. If you would have had a backbone and half intelligence to stand up and say, this isn't right. You're collapsing the economy. You're taking away people's rights. It's a mess. It's a mess. So the theme for today's show, just to wrap it all up in a nice tight bow. They are corrupt. All of them. Or they're inept. Or they're falling for the corruption. Like, I don't think Trump's out there to take us down. I don't think that. But he surrounded them with people that are. And he's believing them on this virus. By the way, let's talk about Sweden real quick. And I'm going to try to put some more videos out today, non-live videos. So, and I'll ask for your help on that in a second. Let's look at the numbers with Sweden. So we have 2,200 dead, right? Go back to that Imperial College study. Here's the problem. Here's how I knew that study was garbage from the get-go. It said it was focused on the UK and the US. It said in the US 2.2 million would die, and the UK 500,000 would die, okay? Then 2 days after the UK issued their lockdown, they said now 20,000 people will die. That's just pulling numbers out of your butt. What they basically said is, it'll be apocalypse if we don't do anything, but if you listen to us and give us control of the economy and lock down and give all your rights away, then hardly anyone will die. They didn't say 500,000 will die in the UK if we don't do anything, and 200,000 will die if we do these things. And so we should do it to save 300,000 lives. They said 20 times more people would die if we just didn't listen to them and give them all the power, them and their allies. That's ludicrous. And they came to that conclusion in 2 days. They can't explain to us how that's the case. And now we're seeing that that's garbage because way more people, they used a mortality rate that was ridiculously higher than the actual mortality rate we're seeing by an order of a magnitude. So their claim that the lockdown would save us all is a lie, because the reason, if they said the mortality rate is high enough that it'll kill 500,000 people, Brits, then the reason the lockdown would save us is it would stop people from getting infected. But it turns out people got infected anyways, and most of them were asymptomatic, which proves that their original number was garbage and that the lockdown didn't save 20 times the lives. It proves it was garbage. Sweden proves that as well. Their numbers were so apocalyptic and so ridiculous that the defense they're using about Sweden doesn't make sense. Now, this is I've talked about this. It's a very difficult argument to wrap your head around, but just think about it for a second. If they would have said we could save, 100,000 will die if we do these policies, 500,000 will die if we don't. So 5 times as many people would die if we don't do their policies. Then you could look at the Sweden numbers and say, see? They should have listened to us. They could have also 5 times more people died than need be if Sweden would have locked down. But they didn't say that, did they? They said it would be an apocalyptic landscape with hospitals overran and the destruction of a country if we didn't do the lockdown. Well, Sweden didn't do the lockdown. Their per capita rates are about on par with the U.S., better than the UK. How is that? Now, you ask these people and they say, well, their healthcare system's different and the age of their population. Isn't it convenient how they do that? Because they'll look at China and they look at Italy. At the start of this lockdown, they said, oh, look at Italy. Oh, my God, we can't be like Italy. So we have to do these lockdowns. And you were like, but wait a minute. Italy's population's way older and their healthcare system's a mess. And they were doing things like having Hug a Chinese Day and things like that, like, virtue signaling, which ended up biting them in the ass. So how can we compare their system to ours? Oh, we just have to. We just have to. That's what we were told. But then when you say, okay, what about Sweden? They go, oh, we can't compare our system to Sweden. It's apples to oranges. That's why the lockdown doesn't look apocalyptic over there. No, my friend. That might make up for some of the numbers, right? Maybe 2 times, maybe twice as bad, right? Like maybe Sweden's healthcare system is twice as good as ours. So if we would have had the exact same policy, Sweden would have had twice as good a mortality rate or something like that. But you said if we didn't have the lockdown, it'd be apocalypse. The countries would be destroyed. 20 times more people would die. Yet in Sweden, that's not what we're seeing. You might be able to make the argument, few people, 2,200 died there. Maybe it would have only been 1,800 if they would have had the lockdown. That's not the apocalypse that they told us was going to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't let them get away with this. Well, like Trump's doing. Trump's out there right now saying Sweden, Sweden's worse than Finland and Norway and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but not apocalyptically worse. And that's what you promised us. You said the lockdown would be able to 20 times more people would die if we didn't have a lockdown. That's garbage. Sweden proves it. Georgia proves it. Yes, of course, without a lockdown, more people are going to die. Period. Hell, more people will die in car wrecks if you don't have a lockdown. That doesn't justify the lockdown. By the way, another thing that's coming out. Guess what deaths are down? Flu deaths are down. Could it be that some of the people, just like I told you, was the first person that told you this, I'm sure, way back a month and a half ago, when I looked at Italy numbers, I said, wait a minute, 2,800 people a month normally die of the flu in Italy, and now it's down to 200 this year? How can that be? Well, because 2,600 that normally would have died of the flu, they're just saying died of COVID. That's how it could be. And we're seeing the same crap here. Remember, the number isn't how many people died of COVID. The numbers that will be important is how many people died totally in the United States over a certain period in 2018, 2019 versus 2020. Because how many people that died of COVID would have died of other causes like regular pneumonia or a regular cold or the flu, etc. The fear-mongering only makes sense if it's these amount of people are going to die, 60,000 died, and that's 60,000 more than would have died elsewise. If it's 60,000 died, but 50,000 of them would have died anyways, so there's only 10,000 additional deaths than what we on average see. Was it worth it? Was it worth the lockdown? Was it worth destroying the economy and taking away your rights for 10,000 people? That's the number that's going to matter. Yeah, Tactical Technician asked, did I see the video of the nurse that said they're letting people die in New York? I did. Do I have proof that that woman's telling the truth? No. But I have as much proof that she's telling the truth that I do as Dr. Folky telling the truth. Let me tell you a story from Pennsylvania, all right? This happened. By the way, Todd Bartley, the radio show that I did the other day, I'll put that up again. But I'm going to do a video at some point, maybe tomorrow, that kind of directs people to this. But here it is. Me and my buddy Carlos did a 2-hour interview on 104.1 FM out of Williamsport with my friend Todd Bartley, who's the best journalist in the country I've seen on this, right? Actually asking critical questions of Governor Wolf in Pennsylvania. So there's the link. If you're listening on the podcast, you can't see the link, but just go to talkwilliamsport.com and search for me and you'll find it there. Todd and his news outlet helped break this story. A coroner in Lycoming County, where he's located, came out and said that Governor Wolf had added 200 and something odd deaths in one day from corona. Now that's out of 600. Basically, they added 11% more deaths. 11% they added in one day of the deaths we've seen of COVID. And the Lycoming County coroner was shocked to see that a handful of those deaths were supposedly in his county. Only as the coroner, he would know about those deaths and they never occurred. And then some other coroners in some rural Pennsylvania counties started to speak up. So initially, Governor Wolf didn't answer questions about it. Then they put out a statement saying it was a glitch in the system. Then they put out a statement saying, well, basically it was prospective deaths, but it's cool. They corrected it and they took those 11% of deaths back off. Now, this isn't a handful of deaths. That's more than 10%. They inflated the numbers by more than 10% and then admitted, yeah, we were bullshitting you. Now, where are the majority of these deaths occurring? In cities. Most cities, Democrat-controlled cities. Most of them. That's where most of the deaths are occurring. If it wasn't for a nonpartisan coroner in Lycoming County, Pennsylvania's numbers would have been inflated by 11%. What if the majority of deaths are occurring in places where there are partisan coroners? Or there's a potential for them? Like, I don't know, New York City. You think those coroners are catching it? We already have the incentive. You get more money if you say someone died of COVID. We already have that perverse incentive. So who's to say you get a little extra scratch if you say this and you want the Democrats to win, you like the lockdown anyway. So yeah, inflate the numbers. So it was only because we actually had someone nonpartisan pointed out that then they said, so did we really think if you caught, what do they always say? I was watching that show Ozark, another good show. It's on Netflix. You should check out. And there's a drug dealer at the beginning of it. He finds out that the accountants he's paying are skimming off of him. And so he kills one of them. But he tells this story. He says, yeah, growing up in Mexico, my dad ran this general store, and the best employee was this woman, and one day he found her taking $5 out of the till. What should he do? And the guy that he shoots is like, oh, he should tell her if it ever happens again, she's fired. And Jason Bateman's character, the main guy in the show, when he's asked about it later, he says, you fire her because if you caught her once, that's not the first time she did it. Yep. So if we caught them inflating the numbers one time, 11% in one state, you don't think they're doing it elsewhere? Now, the reason I bring that up, Tactical Technician, in reference to that video that's being censored, we know they censored, YouTube's pulled off the videos from those California doctors. We know that they censored, when Trump said that UV light could be a treatment, they pulled off videos on YouTube that suggested that. We know, for example, in the Biden thing, that Google Play took off the videos where we could actually hear Tara Reade's mom call in and say she had a problem with a senator in 93. We know that they censored this nurse in New York. So, of course the nurse could be telling the truth. How the hell would we know? Remember, my initial take, day one, way back in, I think, January, someone asked me about this virus, and I said, I don't know nothing about viruses, but here's what I do know. Ain't it a damn shame that we can't trust the media or our government? Well, and here we are. Do you trust them? I don't. And yes, Modus, if we've all seen it, then the censoring doesn't matter. You would think, but it does. Right? Because here's what happens. It's us versus the globalist. And I talk about this a lot. It's an information battle. It's funny, right? Alex Jones has been saying this for years. There's a war for your mind. Info wars, information warfare. That's what it is. It really is. It's not going to be violence. It's not going to be who could get the most guns. That's all garbage. The way we win this battle is informing the people. We got the globalists, and we got those of us that are against them. Everyone in the middle is how we win. The globalists win by keeping all these people ignorant. We win not by lying to people, but by informing them of the truth of what the globalists are about. That's what the battle is. If the globalists keep all these people ignorant, then eventually they'll crack down on us and they win. If we wake these people up, we don't have to inspire them to violence or anything like that. If we wake them up, they'll get fed up with what the globalists is doing and stop believing them and stop allowing them to take away our rights and control our lives. And they'll start to hold them criminally accountable. The truth is, even after something's been seen millions of times, if it's taken down and censored by these social media companies, it has a huge impact. And it also gives an air of legitimacy that it was fake news even if you saw it, because it had to be pulled down. There are a lot of great independent content creators. There are a lot of great people that don't have as much of a voice, like me. Or maybe you don't even have a YouTube channel and it's you, and you're just talking to your family and friends. And I thought this is my mistake. This is my bad. I thought we were doing good. I thought we were waking up a lot of people. We weren't. This shutdown was a kick in the teeth. When even Trump supporters that know all of these lies, that knew that the corrupt people, that the same people that committed treason with the FBI, the same people that lied and weaponized the Kavanaugh allegations, but will now defend Biden, the same people that said you can't look into the corruption of the FBI, when the people that were critical of that are now saying, oh, but we have to have the shutdown. We have to support Trump in this shutdown. If Trump supports it, then we support it. It's just a piece of paper. That's what they've told me. The Constitution. No one cares about your damn rights right now. COVID's out there. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. We're getting shellacked. We're getting destroyed. The people that we are out there, and this is true, by the way, when I was out campaigning for Trump and going to events to help Trump, you know who the best people were? Non-paid volunteers. Like, I remember talking to this woman who she'd never voted. She went to one Trump rally. She met some people. She's spending days upon days of her life for free out there making signs, calling people, knocking on doors. The enthusiasm she had was infectious. That woman's never got a dime from anyone. Those are the real people. They're out there doing stuff. But where are the people that we're supporting? Where's Trump on it? Where's your congressman? Where's the congressperson in my district? Where's the congressperson that beat me? Sure, they'll come out. When it shows that it then becomes politically popular to, oh, now enough people in your district want to reopen. Oh, now you'll come out. But where were you initially? And that's when it matters the most. If your gut feeling as a representative was, yeah, take away people's rights and collapse the economy because COVID's that bad, we'll figure it out later, you don't deserve to be in office. You need to vote those people out. So I'm not giving up. I'm retooling. I'm going to try to be putting out more videos daily. But yeah, the censorship, it's working. It is. You think 10 years ago, I would have said, dude, not only we'll have a cold virus and it'll lock the country down, and not only that, but people that call themselves conservatives will support it. The majority of the country will at least initially be all for it. You would have said, you're nuts. There's no way hell, I would have said that 6 months ago. I was wrong. That's how bad we're being beat. That's why things need to change. So I'm going to retool. I'm going to try to do more. So I will need your help though. So if each of you would send me 15,000, no, I'm just kidding. This is what I want to push for today. I'm going to, look, my life's crazy busy. I worked like 11 days in a row. And I got stuff to do around that. I get off like 2 days and I got, to mow the yard, and it just rains the whole time. So, yeah. But anyways, I'm going to try to get back to doing daily videos, not necessarily a live stream every day, but like just a little 2 to 5 minute videos every day, trying to get those out there. For some reason, I get no traction on those. None. I was doing them. They were coming out like 12 minutes. And then I had people tell me, well, they're too long. Okay, so I shortened them to like 6, and then people said, well, the problem is you get more if you put it on Twitter. But if you make it under 2.5 minutes, then the video will actually run on Twitter instead of just a link to your video. So I did that, and I just can't get any traction on that. And then, like, as you see today, hey, I'm up to 16 people watching now, which is cool. I mean, I used to do these that have 40, 50 people watch, but I criticized Trump, and so it is what it is now. So I think that I hope that I'm giving you an authentic take. I think that I'm correct, obviously. And I think that I'm approaching things from a different way. Like, it's easy to show, oh, the Flynn thing, that's corrupt. But what does that mean? That means everything the FBI touches is corrupt. That means that the media that covered for them is all corrupt. That applies to the Biden story as well. So many people look at these stories in a vacuum, and it's not in a vacuum. We need to look at this corruption as a whole and what it means for the country. And no one asks this. Like, there's great people that go through this stuff like I do, but I don't hear anyone out there asking, what has the other side done? What have the Republicans done to fight back against this? Yes, I'm critical of Trump and Bill Barr and Jeff Sessions, but it shouldn't be all on them. At least Trump gave, lip service to fighting back. What the hell have the rest of the Republicans done? Nothing. There's some good one. Devin Nunes is a saint. What did he get for his trouble? Oh, yeah. The Republican-led Congress had an ethics investigation into him for being right. That's your Republicans. And I say this as a Republican, which is why I'll be running as a Republican and why I'll be shunned by most of the people in the establishment Republican Party because I criticize them. I don't care. So if you really want to help me out, there's links to, there should be links on this video to my Patreon. I'm going to start, I just got approved by YouTube to start having subscribers to my channel, which for like a monthly fee, you could subscribe to my channel. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that special for the subscribers there. You could always super chat me, which some people do. Paul already super chatted me today, so thanks for that. But the money is less important than if you like what I'm doing, share some of these videos. These long rambling videos, maybe it's hard to share. Some fat guy talking for 2 hours. I get that, but the videos I do that's like 4 or 5 minutes, if you like that, like I just put one up today, and the videos, my buddy Chirby took a cut from my live stream and it put subtitles to it, and it's just, I was asked by 3 separate people, well, if I'm going out and I'm protesting the lockdown, if I get sick, I should refuse healthcare because that's my stupidity for endorsing an idea that got me sick and it's jeopardizing other people. And I said, fair enough. But then if you're endorsing the lockdown, then you shouldn't accept help for your position, which destroyed the economy. So why don't you send your Trump check back? Oh, no one took that offer, of course. But yeah, check that video out. It's only like 2 minutes. So yeah, if you could share my stuff with people on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, I'd really appreciate it. The other thing is, if anyone would like to volunteer, if you ever get bored and want to go through these live streams and you see a section that you like and you want to edit it out and send that video to me, I'll give you credit for it and I'll put it up on my YouTube channel. It's something that I should be doing, cutting these live streams, because I do way more of them than the regular videos, but I don't have good editing software, and I talk and I don't really want to hear myself talk after I just go off for 2 hours. So and I have difficulty finding the time to do it anyway. So anyone who would like to help me in that way, I would be greatly appreciative. So if anyone's emailed me or anything recently, I apologize if I haven't got back. It's just been really tough at work. I don't get a lot of free time, so I do apologize with that. So, all right, everyone. Yeah, I agree with you, Modus. I'm not worried about people that leave either. I'm not at all. Not only do you get the cream that sticks around, and I don't just mean the people that agree with me, but like, you have to understand, my background is I was a debater. I love arguing. I love disagreeing with people. I thoroughly enjoy it. So, my idea of a good panel would be 4 people that all have a different take on something and we have some disagreement. I think it gets boring when everyone's just like, yeah, I agree with what that person said. The people that stick around, even if they agree with me or not, I really welcome it. And I'm really appreciative of each and every person. I would be doing this if there was one person sitting here listening. I assure you, I have fun doing it. I think it's important. It's my way of trying to give back. There you go. So, all right. So please like and share if you haven't already. Consider subscribing if you haven't. Look for please do me that favor today. And if you see that I put up just a regular video that's not a live stream, please like and share that, because I think those videos might be better for people to get an introduction that don't have hours to sit here and listen to me. So thank you so much. As always, everyone, I'm really humbled that you guys listen to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the people that support me financially. Not many, like 4 of you or so, but I really appreciate it. I really do. So, and when this lockdown's over, I plan on trying to buy a new mobile microphone. It does me no good now. I can't even go out and interview people, but that's the next thing I wanted. And then some editing software. Then I ultimately need a computer that can handle it. So that's where my money's going for now. So, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. Have a good one.